I am a real estate broker and senior property tax consultant. Right now, the appraisal district is sending out their property tax value notice, and you have the opportunity to protest. So, the system wouldn't be fair if the government could just dictate what they said the value of your home is without giving you the ability to uh, rebut them or to protest and tell them that you have a difference of opinion. The thing that actually establishes what your home is really worth in real life is what a buyer is willing to pay for it. And right now, if no buyer is trying to buy your home, then the appraisal district's opinion of the value of your home is no better or no worse than your opinion. The question that we have is, what set of facts do you have, or does the appraisal district have, to substantiate what they think your home is worth? And they bring their evidence to the table. You get to bring your evidence to the table, and if you do a good job presenting evidence that they see as valid, then you can get a reduction on your property tax value, which will in result allow you or cause you to pay less property tax. This year, the property taxes that you're going to end up paying are going to be probably less than they have been in recent years due to recent legislation that improves the homestead exemption for your property. But the exemption and what's happening right now are two separate things. Both of them affect your tax bill, but you're not going to get your actual tax bill until sometime in October or so. After the city and the county and the school districts, after they establish their budgets, then they'll pass their tax rate and adopt a new tax rate. Then they'll calculate your actual tax bill at that time. But right now, we're dealing with the first part of the equation. So just to kind of give it to you in a nutshell, the way that it works is that the tax assessor takes your property tax value, which is what we're dealing with now. They multiply that by the tax rate, which they'll establish later on this year in about August, September. And they take the value times the rate, they subtract your exemptions, and that's how they calculate the total tax bill that you're going to owe and have to pay. Probably your bill will most likely be late if it's not paid by January 31st of 2027. But right now we're working on the first part of that equation, which is establishing the value of your property, and you have an opportunity to protest to reduce that value so that hopefully your tax bill in October won't be quite as high. Right now we're seeing that home values are all across the board. The appraisal district uses a technique called mass appraisal, and that is what they have to use to value all of the property across the entire county. No appraiser has looked at the inside of your home, and they probably haven't looked at your home specifically, even on paper, even the comparable sales or recent sales data that they might use to look at, establish your home's value. They haven't looked at that individually for your property or any other property, most likely. They've just looked at it as a whole. So what we're seeing right now is values are just all over the board. About half of the properties are valued too low, about half are valued too high. And you won't know if your house is valued too high unless you go protest and you actually do the research. And I would say if they haven't looked at the inside of your home, there's a good chance that there's some condition issues inside your home that if they only knew about, they would decide that they would value the house less. But it's incumbent on you to prove that and to demonstrate that there are some condition issues that they should take into effect. And so you've got a little work to do right now. The first step you have to decide is how much time, effort, and energy you want to put into it, or money. So there are two steps to the protest process. The first step gets all of the attention, and that's to actually file the protest, but that's the easiest step. There is a deadline involved, and the deadline for most people is going to be May 15th. So you've got to get your protest filed by that day, but that doesn't mean you have to assemble a bunch of evidence or do any work or spend any money between now and then. Filing your protest is as simple as taking your value notice, turning it over, and filling out the back side of your value protest. Or you can simply, if you don't have your value notice, you can take a sheet of paper and just say, I am protesting my property tax value, and you give them the address, you sign the document, and you have to put two things on there. You say, I'm protesting the market value, and I'm protesting that it's unequal when compared to other properties. That's as technical as it needs to get. You get that submitted to the appraisal district by May 15th, and that satisfies step one. Step two is actually gathering evidence to uh, prove to them that your house shouldn't be valued as high as they're valuing it. And there are a couple of different things that you can do that give you an effective approach for this. You've got a defensive strategy and an offensive strategy. The defensive strategy is you need to ask the appraisal district for the evidence that they plan to use against you if it were to go to a protest hearing. They have to provide the evidence to you, and then you look at the evidence they're going to use. And if they're not proving their case, then you're going to automatically win. So that's the first step. I look at the evidence they're going to use against me, and I try and poke holes in that. Step two is the offensive strategy. And for this, you do what I've already mentioned. You document the condition of your home by taking photos of repair issues inside the house. And the more substantial the issue, the better the evidence. So you want to stick with plumbing, foundation, roof, electrical, that kind of thing. Things that don't carry as much weight are issues like landscaping or dirty paint, dirty carpet. Those kind of cosmetic issues don't carry as much weight for them. But you want to get photos and repair estimates to document the condition of the property. Second is to look at comparable sales. Look at other houses that have sold that are similar to yours, that are nearby, and sold after January 1st, 2025. And the best way to find those is to contact your local realtor. And most realtors are more than happy to provide sales data like that for you for free. And if you think, man, that doesn't seem fair, I should pay them, just go online and post on Facebook that you need a realtor. And I promise you, within an hour, you're going to have a list of realtors that would be glad to hand you that information for free, just as a service. Most realtors are just very helpful like that. And so you get that evidence together and package it so that you can demonstrate that the home that they're valuing is not worth as much as they say it is. And you submit that to the appraisal district. And I recommend asking the appraisal district to meet with you informally and follow the process they have. Most of the time, you're going to be able to upload information online and handle it in an informal way before you have to go to a hearing. And they'll oftentimes offer you a reduction, and you just weigh the cost. Do I think that reduction is good enough, or do I think I really have substantial evidence that warrants further reduction? And if it warrants further reduction, you go to the formal protest hearing, and that's a different ball of wax. It's a little bit more involved, but you've already got the evidence together to take it to that next step, and that's your right within the law to protest your value. So that's the process that you would have to go through. Texas is a non-disclosure state, which means the government can't force anybody to disclose what they bought their house for. Now, in Texas, we also have the Board of Realtors, which is not a government entity. It's a private enterprise. And they have the MLS system, which is just a website where we have all those properties and we disclose the sales price on that. It's just that you have to have a membership in the club in order to get access to those sales prices. And so in order to get that data, you have to be a licensed real estate agent. And so those are the rules that we have in Texas. And there's a bit of controversy behind this, because you would think, well, how would the appraisal district know how to value my property if they don't have access to this website, if they're not realtors? Well, most of the time they do get access to that database of values. And so you absolutely have to fight fire with fire and get access to it as well. And like I said, most realtors will be more than happy to share that sales data with you on your specific property. I think that there's I think that there's a question about whether or not the appraisal district should have access to that data. I think as long as our system is designed it depends on accurate values, they kind of need it, but it doesn't seem quite fair at the same time. One way or the other, that doesn't change your objective. The objective that you have when you go into the appraisal district is not to right the wrongs of the system. There's plenty of injustice, but you have to just focus on the singular goal that you have, and that's to lower your value. And for that, you've got to bring evidence. And if you bring evidence that they see as valid, then more than likely you're going to be able to get that reduction you're looking for. Yeah, I mean, there are sites like Zillow that you can go to that'll give you general information, but the way they get their sales data is usually through an algorithm or something, and it's not It's not going to be data that the appraisal district would look at as valid data. They want to see actual sales data. So there's really the only way to go is to get access to the MLS, and it's through a realtor. And I've got a problem with that. I think it's kind of messed up that they take this private data and then expect the public to be able to access it, and you have to have a license in order to get it. Thankfully, realtors are pretty open and willing to share, so it hasn't become that a stumbling block like you would think, but it should be different. But a lot of things should be different. There are a couple shortcuts that you can take on protesting. One is if you purchased your home after January 1st, 2025, then the sales price is going to be the driving factor that should determine what your home is valued with at the appraisal district. You don't have to disclose what you bought your home for, but if they're proposing a value that's higher than you purchased it for, most of the time, all you have to do is submit your settlement statement, and they'll accept the reduction and lower it to what you purchased your property for immediately. If you've refinanced your property, then an appraisal that accompanied that refinance would be seen as legitimate evidence. I would say beyond those things, just making sure that your exemptions are in place and you've got the right exemptions on your property. That's going to give you your best bang for your buck on property tax savings. And so that's where I would start, and then tackle all of this property tax protesting stuff after you make sure your exemptions are in place and good to go. Given an overview of the whole property tax system, for protesting, the only deadline that you're going to have, it's going to be May 15th or 30 days after they mail out your value notice. So not everybody gets their value notice at the same time. Some people get their value notice a little bit later, and so it'll be 30 days from the date they mailed that out. But that's for protesting, that's for your value notice, and that's for getting your protest filed. The rest of the whole property tax system and how they calculate your actual bill, that takes place later on in the year, and you don't have near as much control over what happens after this little window. One of the most important messages that people should get right now is that you should file a protest. Everybody should file a protest. And some people think, well, should I file a protest or not? And there's really no good reason to not file a protest. I would say there's only, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Anything more complicated than that convolutes the answer. But most people wonder, should I file a protest? And the answer is yes. It's within your right to file a protest. It's not going to hurt you by filing a protest. You're not going to sell your house for less money if you file a protest and get a reduction. There is no downfall for filing a protest. You're not going to end up on a naughty list. The government fully accepts and appreciates these protests. It helps them make the values accurate. So there's no reason they shouldn't be okay with it, and it's within your right, and you absolutely should file a protest. Even if you think that the value is fair, there's another question. The other question is, if somebody else is getting a discount on their property tax value, even if the value is accurate, you should get that same exact discount. And so that's another reason for filing a protest, is just to make sure there's not any money that you're leaving on the table. And in many cases, there almost certainly is. So filing the protest is the only way to verify that your value is in fact accurate.